What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. And today we are going to be talking about why 99% of Etsy sellers are ignoring this one major thing that can dramatically increase your sales. And I know that sounds kind of hypey, but in reality, it's true. And if we're able to implement this, understand it, I'm telling you right now, it will change the game, almost guaranteed. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today, and we've got a lot of things that we want to discuss on this topic because, well, we've been doing it a very long time, but now with Etsy rolling out some new things that are actually saying, you know what, you guys should probably get in on this because we'll probably reward you a little bit by even paying you a little bit more. Last week, we talked about the Save and Rewards program, which is pretty awesome. And we're already starting to see that we're getting some extra money that we wouldn't have had before by implementing what we're about here, or what we're about to share here today. So that's what we're going to be talking about here on this episode. And we're going to be talking about how you can actually do it yourself and start implementing this like now, like today. So Chris, are you fired up about this topic today?
I am. You know, this is one of my favorite topics in all of the Etsy, e-commerce, Amazon world, right? And making sure that we're doing this correctly, especially coming into Q4 like we are right now, as of the time of recording this, depending on when you're listening to this or watching this video later, making sure that we have the foundation and a basic understanding of this will put us ahead, Scott, like you said, of 99% of people. And that may sound like a really hypey number, but every time we talk about this, Scott, we get 10 plus comments on a video, on a live stream, on the podcast, on a blog post that say something to the effect of, I didn't know you could even do that. And so the fact that even some more advanced sellers leave us those comments tells me that this is something way too many people are missing out on, especially as we move into Q4, where it's even more powerful. And especially now that Etsy is giving us the ability to earn a little bit more on each of those sales if we do this correctly.
Yeah, no, it's all good stuff. But yeah, here's the deal. And this is what I want to kind of tee up here for this conversation is right now, Etsy wants us to drive traffic. All right. And it's clear by them saying, hey, we've got this new program, Save and Rewards, and we want to reward you for driving traffic. So first off, I think I want to debunk or take that myth and squash it, burn it up, get rid of it, because we've heard other people, you know, some of the so-called Etsy gurus out there saying like driving your own traffic is bad. And they're clearly saying, no, we want you to do it. And, you know, the funny thing is probably as far back as last Q4, it was also being said that, hey, we would like you to start driving social media traffic. Now, I'm not talking about social media today, but I am talking about driving traffic and our own traffic. And here's the deal. Etsy was saying it last year when we were getting closer to the holiday. They're like, hey, you got any social media stuff you can drive traffic to? So that's what we're talking about. So the big thing here to understand is Etsy does want us to drive traffic. It's said, it's proven. And yes, we are wanting to drive traffic. And yes, we are driving traffic. So let's just get that out of the way, Chris, as far as does Etsy want us to drive traffic? And the answer is 100% yes, they do. Chris, anything you want to say on that before we move into actually what kind of traffic we want to drive?
I've never understood this myth other than and Scott, I think you and I have talked about this in the past. There may be a small grain of truth in that if you are driving a ton of unqualified, unconverting traffic, that may be something that could possibly potentially negatively affect your listing. Although if you look at how the Etsy algorithm works, they are treating different traffic sources slightly differently, right? They know when somebody comes from Facebook versus when somebody comes from YouTube versus when somebody comes from an email. They have enough analytics data to really understand that. And if you think about the YouTube algorithm for a second, right? You and I know that YouTube treats different traffic sources differently. They have kind of a different algorithm for each of those different kinds of traffic. So to me, The same thing would probably apply within Etsy. But what Etsy is really looking for is sales. And even if we thought, that there was kind of that grain of truth to it, all we have to do is think about the Etsy offsite ads program, where they are literally driving external traffic to Etsy. Why? Because they want to get people back to Etsy. Not everybody knows about Etsy. Not everybody knows that they can find what they're looking for on Etsy. Or maybe they found what they were looking for and they haven't converted yet. And we have to bring them back to Etsy that way. And so as long as we're driving traffic that converts, which the source you and I are talking about here today converts substantially higher than the average Etsy conversion rate, then it's not going to hurt us, because at the end of the day, what Etsy is looking for is traffic, sales, and conversions. And if we can bring in external traffic, that saves Etsy a little bit of money, and using their new, what is it called, Scott? I keep calling it the Share and Save program. Do you remember the actual name of it? It's like
it's Save and Rewards, I believe.
Save and Rewards. So the program we talked about last week on this live, and if you guys haven't checked that out yet, I would highly suggest going and doing that. If you're listening to this after the fact, just listen to last week's episode of the podcast. But they're encouraging us to do this. So not only are we giving them the traffic that they want, not only are we giving them additional sales, but we're giving them a higher conversion rate on our listing, all of which sends good signals to the Etsy algorithm to say, hey, this is a product people actually care about. And worst case, nothing happens except we make more sales and we make more money. Best case, because we are converting at a higher rate than the traffic that we're getting from within Etsy, then they bump us up a little bit in the algorithm and we get even more traffic, which leads to more sales, and it really gets that flywheel going. So to me, there's zero reason not to drive traffic, especially this way, over to Etsy, because we know it converts not just as well, but better than traditional Etsy conversion rates, at least in terms of averages, right?
Yeah. So you guys are probably wondering, and I'm already seeing some questions come in, is like, well, are you talking about Google ads? Are you talking about Facebook ads? Are you talking about paid ads in general? And the answer is no, not in this case. We're talking about, number one, what Etsy is allowing us to get access to now, but then also how to create our own traffic source, our own asset. So let me just say, what is that thing? What is it that 99% of Etsy sellers are ignoring? And that is email. And some of you that are longtime listeners and people that have been subscribed to the YouTube channel or on Facebook or wherever, you guys have been hearing us talk about this for a long time. And it's been kind of woven in through all of the brands that we've ever built. Ever. Like really, like going back, I'm talking brick and mortar even. So now that Etsy is saying, yes, we clearly want you to drive traffic, well, that's a great opportunity for us. But the thing is, most people on Etsy have no idea about email or about how to use it effectively, or they're thinking to themselves, and we always get this, but Scott, Etsy won't let you collect email addresses. They're saying like they don't want you to do that. It's against their terms of service. Well, I'm here to tell you that's old news. The new news is they're wanting you to. If you go into your Etsy shop and you go under integration, you click on Aweber, you go through, look at that documentation. It's clearly saying, we are allowing Aweber to be an integration. Aweber, by the way, is an email marketing tool. It's where you get to collect emails and set up autoresponders and follow up with your customers, send broadcast messages, segment customers, segment prospects, like all of that stuff. And they're clearly saying, we would like you to set up an email list and start emailing your customers. That's what they're saying. It says it right in the documentation. If you don't believe me, go into your Etsy shop, go under integration, and then click on Aweber, and then go ahead and start reading through that documentation. And the word on the street is, and I've got a little bit of an inside scoop with a tool that I use already. I'll leave it at that. They're adding email integration, and it's going to be launching here, I would say, in the next few months. So this isn't something that is just, well, Aweber had this access that no one else is going to be able to get. No, it's going to be actually opened up to other email marketing providers. And there's one that I'm very excited about, which I can't really say yet, but I'm going to be an early beta tester, by the way, which is why you want to probably subscribe to this channel or subscribe to the podcast, because we're going to be giving updates on this stuff. But what that means for us is we now can collect our email addresses from our customers. Yes, that's right, our customers. And then we're able to follow up with them. Now, not everyone will want to subscribe, and you basically have to get permission. And there's ways to do this, ethically. And then once we have permission, we can then go ahead and email those people. And if you're building a brand like we've talked about here on this podcast and on this channel, if you're doing that, you probably have related products. You probably have promos you're going to do. You probably are going to be launching new products. Wouldn't you want to get in front of those people versus just relying on Etsy to ping those people when they are, or when you're having something that is new, or a promo, or maybe you added something, or maybe you've got new inventory, or maybe you got something back in stock, any of that stuff? Wouldn't you like to have the control to write up an email and press send and send it to everybody? Let me know in the comments if that would be cool to you. Would that increase your sales, do you think, if you were able to do that? Basically, with the click of a button, you can reach all of your past customers. Would that be beneficial to you? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. And also, if you guys are getting value so far, smash the like button, give it a little love so we can share this with more people. Chris, I know I just ran on there for a little bit. It was quite a run-on sentence, but that's how I roll here when we start talking about email marketing. And I know you probably got a few run-ons yourself.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of run-on sentences, I think the reason people get confused about the fact that you can do this within Etsy is because of a giant run-on sentence, which tends to happen when you're looking at legalese within the Etsy terms of service. And I want to read this to you, Scott. It says, you may not use this information. They're talking about customer information like emails, addresses, phone numbers, any of those kinds of things, for unsolicited, that's the keyword, commercial messages or unauthorized transactions without the buyer's consent, comma, and subject to other applicable Etsy policies and laws, comma. You may not add any Etsy member to your email or physical mailing list, use that buyer's identity for marketing, or obtain or retain any payment information. And I know that that's a giant thing with a bunch of commas in it, but there's two key words in there. The first one is unsolicited, and the second one is without their consent. Right. And what most people see when they read that is you can't do this. And what they're saying is all you have to do is obtain consent, and then you can. How does that work in the context of email marketing? Well, you may have heard us talk about opting in. So in a lot of cases, and if you're looking at something from us, like the email marketing playbook that I know we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, typically what you'll see is like a form. Right? It'll say, put in your name and your email. We'll send you the thing. That's considered an opt-in. There's another way to do this. And it's typically what happens within the Etsy ecosystem. And that is through the integration with Aweber or the other email marketing integrations that are going to be coming here shortly. And the way to opt people in that way is by sending an opt-in email or an opt-in confirmation email. A lot of times in the email marketing world, you'll hear this talked about as like a two-step opt-in. Typically, they fill out a form and then they get that email. In this case, they're filling out the form, meaning they're making the purchase on Etsy. And then they are getting an email saying, hey, do you mind if we send you additional emails in the future? If they accept that, then they have given you consent and they have agreed to you sending them solicitations, right? So essentially, you get rid of that unsolicited commercial messages worry, and you get rid of the not having consent because they are actively opting in to hear from you. And Andrew just commented over on the YouTube side, Scott. He said, I set it up a couple weeks ago and 25% of my people are opting into my list. And that's pretty typical with what we're seeing. You're getting a lot higher opt-in rate with Etsy customers than we are in a lot of other places. You're not going to get everybody, but you are going to get a large chunk of people. And one of the cool things about the way that the current integration works is even if you've been around for 5 years, 10 years on Etsy, when you first set up that initial integration, they'll actually go back to your historical customer database and send that opt-in message to all of those people. So even if you don't get everybody, you're going to get a big chunk of those people who are your past customers, and you have the opportunity to be able to market to all of your future customers and then do all of the other things that we're talking about with email marketing. So I think the reason that there's a lot of confusion here is that the Etsy terms of service are terms of service, right? And they're written for lawyers to be able to argue about, not for human beings to be able to understand. But if you read through it and you understand the marketing lingo and the legal lingo that are in there, like unsolicited and consent, right? And you understand how that applies to email marketing, it's very clear to see that they have this. Additionally, if it was against their terms of service, they would not have allowed someone to access their API. To do that integration, they wouldn't have help articles on how to do it, right? They wouldn't have any of these things if it was a violation of their terms of service. And despite the fact that I know, Scott, this integration's been around at least 3 years, as far as I'm aware of. It's been around since 2020, but it may have been around before that. I just don't see that further back date on any of the help articles or anything. It seems like most people are still not aware of this, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah. That's, you bring up a great point. I actually just interviewed, and it's going to be dropping here pretty soon. Again, you probably want to subscribe because that's going to be dropping, I believe, next Wednesday. And I interviewed the #1 Etsy shop of all time. And they're still #1, and they have been for years. And I talked about that, and I talked about email. And he had said that, yeah, it's been around for quite a while, but no one's really using it. And that's why I basically came up with today's little title there is like 99% of people are not using it. Now, is there more than that? I doubt it. Like anyone I talk to basically says, I didn't know you could do it. I thought it was against terms of service, or I don't know how to set it up, or I haven't gotten around to it. Right. And here's the deal. You need to make this a priority. We just got news from Etsy that says that they have this program that they want to reward us for driving traffic. So do you think they're going to also reward you if you're driving traffic and you're getting more sales? We all know that sales velocity drives rank. And if you don't, you just heard it here. Okay. The number one thing that drives rank is going to be a product that is getting sales. Do you think that Etsy wants to promote a product and push it to top of page 1 if it's not getting sales? They want the top converting, highest sales on an item to show up because it's been proven to sell, right? So if we're able to now, get this, if we're able to now take our customers, okay, that we know are interested in our stuff, and then we can run a promo. Because email marketing, guys, is more than just sending out one email. There's a lot more to it. And maybe we'll do another episode on that. We've done other ones, but maybe we'll do one dedicated to just that, like how to run a promo, or we call it a profit push. But think about this for a second. Let's say that you're doing a product launch of a brand new product, and you want to send a product launch sequence of emails to let people know that you have something that's going on sale because you're doing an exclusive launch party. Do you think that if you get a bunch of sales on that listing, Etsy's going to look at that and go, wow, people like this item. It's selling. Maybe I should put that on top and let other people buy it that aren't necessarily seeing it yet. Of course, it makes sense. So the power in this, I want you guys to understand the power in having email. Okay. I can go all the way back to when I started online. And it all came from an email list of 1,000 people. And that 1,000-person email list was able to build me at the time, a six-figure business. Okay. Just from a list of 1,000 people. Okay. So here's the deal. Etsy gives us a lot of things to do internally. We have the internal email stuff going on, right? And if you guys haven't set that up, make sure that you do. And I'm talking about abandoned carts, favorited items, and thank you emails. Those are great. Okay. But again, it's something that Etsy still controls. Okay. What about if someone favorites an item or favorites your shop? They can get notified in their notifications that, hey, so-and-so just launched a new product, or hey, so-and-so just dropped the price on this thing. Yes, you're going to get those notifications. Those are all great. But those, again, are all without you being able to control that. But what you can control is email. And you also own that email address now. Yes, they're your customers. They might have come from Etsy, but they're your customers. All right. So that's the other cool thing. And now an additional benefit is that we're getting rewarded, not just by getting ranked higher. That's great. but we're also getting more money in our pocket because any sale that comes through our special Save and Rewards link is tracked. And now we are going to get, what is it, 4%. We're going to get 4% of that sale. We're going to get that. It's like getting a cashback reward, okay, on a sale. And if you guys missed that episode last week, go ahead and watch that one. If you just go into our channel, go under live, under that playlist, or go under Rock Your Brand, you will find it there. We'll also link it up in the description when this live is over. That's really important to understand that. I want to know in the comments, is this something that you're actively doing right now? Are you currently using email in your Etsy shop to drive sales? Curious. Chris, where do you want to go now? I mean, we can go into 100 different directions, and I know we had some notes here. Is there anything else that we need to cover there before we move on?
No, let's start jumping into it. We have some questions coming in, but let's kind of knock through the rest of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. I am going to answer some of the questions live, but anything that I think will go better with the rest of the group, anything that other people need to know that isn't like a very specific question for just one person, we'll save those for the kind of the Q&A portion at the end, and we'll go from there.
All right, cool. Yeah, so let's talk about how to build an email list. I think that's the big one, right? It's like, okay, we talked about how awesome it is and everyone should do it. And like 99% of people aren't doing it. That's another thing, guys. Like that's a huge advantage, right? Like if you now are going to start actively using email, that separates you from your competition. That separates you from someone that's just throwing up a listing and might even be running Etsy ads, right? Now you have another traffic source that they don't have access to. So that's the other thing. So now that you're nodding your head and you're like, yes, Scott, this is great. I want to do this. Well, first off, I do have a free resource. And Chris, we should probably pop that up on the screen. So if you want to do that, you can get our playbook. And that is right there at brandcreators.com/email. Totally free. I believe it's like 46 or 47 pages. It's got a lot of screenshots and it walks you through our process for building a list and how to use it. Okay. So you guys can go ahead and grab that absolutely free. But I'm going to walk you through some ways that you can do this. Now, the first way, obviously, is getting that Aweber thing integrated. Even if right now you're using Aweber, which by the way, I believe at the time of us doing this, I believe it's free to use Aweber. Now, there are some things that aren't active in that free account. Number one, I think you can collect up to 500 subscribers. Okay, customers that I believe you get for free. The second thing is I believe you can send out broadcast messages, but you can't send out automated messages, which is actually pretty powerful. That if you can use that. So if you wanted to go up to the paid plan, that'll give you that. I don't believe that you can set up. You might be able to set up one, but I don't know if you can set up many, like they call them landing pages or opt-in pages, or years ago, they called them squeeze pages, like all of these different terms. But that's where you can create a page that says, hey, join our VIP club and you can get discounts, right? I don't know if the free version allows you to do that. But it does give you the ability to basically collect up to 500 of your customers for free. Now, I know, and I thought I saw this in the comments. Someone had said, it can get expensive with Aweber. I don't know what it is right now. It's like 20 or 30 bucks a month. But guys, listen, if you're running a business, like the other thing is, are you running a business? Do you think of this as a business, or do you just think of this as a hobby, right? Even your hobby you spend money on, right? So to me, it's like, it's very minimal on what kind of tools that you need to run this business. One of them for me is I have to have this tool, and that is Everbee, right? So Everbee is like the number one tool that I would need to start with. I don't need the email thing yet, but it's going to be second. Second would be my email. And yes, I'm saying Aweber right now, but like I said, you can start with Aweber, and once these other platforms start showing up, which there's one that's going to show up, which I'm going to be using. So I'll leave it at that. But right now I'm using Aweber to get those emails, but I'm going to probably most likely be switching to this new platform because it's going to give me even more control. It's more robust. And it's going to be very, very affordable. So stay tuned for that. But those are really the only tools that I see that we need. And if you guys are not using Everbee, Chris, we might want to drop that in the in the comments and maybe on the screen here. If you guys are not using Everbee, I would get connected as soon as possible. Wink, wink. Brandcreators.com/Everbee. They're constantly improving their product research, but there's so much more than that. They're even doing SEO stuff now, right? We can do keyword research, all of that stuff. And there's something cool coming. Did I just say that out loud? Did I say that? Yeah, I think I did say that out loud, that there's something cool coming. And it might have something to do with email. I'll leave it at that. So get connected with Everbee. But Aweber right now is the only option for collecting those emails and doing it legitimately. Okay. So those are really the two tools that we need. But what we're going to do now and what we need to be thinking about is, okay, we can collect our customers. That's great. How do I build an email list of people that aren't yet my customers? That's a really important thing to start thinking about. One simple way that you can do it, and we're doing it right now for our brand or for my wife's Etsy shop, we actually have a website that we've been creating content for, and we are getting organic traffic to that website, okay? And what we're doing is we have it's like a little widget that pops up and it says, hey, want to join our VIP club? And you'll get discounts. You'll be notified when we do free giveaways and things like that. And we're getting probably between 10 and 20 new signups a day, okay, for free, because we wrote content and these different things to get that traffic. Now, that's just one way to do it, but we're doing it as a way to get in front of our ideal potential customer, okay? Because we don't just want to just say, okay, Etsy is the only game in town. We want to build our own email list of people that are interested in our thing. So if you were into bass fishing, you'd probably want to create a VIP club for your bass fishing stuff. Then you can let people know about your stuff through email. And then guess what? We're going to drive them over to Etsy. And why would we drive them to Etsy? Because we want to get a sale there. If we get a sale there, what's that do? It helps our ranking. It also then would turn them into a customer and put them on our customer email list. All right. So that's what we would do there. And the best way that we have found to do that is running these free giveaways. If you guys have not yet run a giveaway and you want to run one, definitely grab the email playbook that we're giving away for free. All right. We outline a lot of it in there and you can follow that to a T. All right. And that's something that we generally will definitely do when we're approaching bigger holidays or Q4. Now, the cool thing is once you get this stuff set up, this is why it's important that you get this stuff set up like now. We're approaching Q4. Every single sale that comes through, you want that to start becoming part of your customer list. Now, like Chris said, we can go back retroactively and we can take those and send out an email to people that have already purchased, and we can try to get them on our list, but they still have to opt in. If they're brand new, they're a customer, it's fresh, right? And then what we can do is send them a welcome message and we can introduce ourselves, let them know that we're a small business. And hey, if you want to join our VIP group, just go ahead, do nothing, and we will basically, or click this button to subscribe or whatever. But usually it's like you're already on the list. If you don't want to receive this information, let us know, click the unsubscribe. You can do all those things. It's different for different platforms. Aweber is pretty easy. It'll have an unsubscribe link. And I believe it's where they call it a double confirmation or double opt-in, where you will have to click a link inside of an email to confirm that you actually want to become part of that list. But there's ways to make it enticing for these people. Where people are doing it wrong in my eyes is they are just letting Aweber's generic email go out and say, you are subscribing to whatever John's Bass Fishing Etsy shop. Do you want to click the link below? Like, that's the generic one. And it's probably even more generic than that. What we do is we thank them, we introduce ourselves, and we let them know that we have a lot of cool things that we're going to be sharing with our VIP club. We call it a club. We call it our VIP club because this way here, they're going to get exclusive discounts. And guess what, guys? We actually do give them exclusive stuff. We just actually did one about 2 weeks ago on a brand new design that my wife wanted to launch. And we gave 5 of them away at like 50% off. And then once those 5 were gone, we brought it back to our 25%. So we do that. But what did that do? we sold 5 items in less than 24 hours on that brand new listing. Okay. So that's the cool things that we can do. Chris, I think we got to stop for a minute. We got to see if we got any questions, because I just covered a lot.
Well, I know, Scott, you had read off a comment where somebody said, hey, it gets expensive. It should only be expensive once you have enough in place that you're making the money back, right? And you were talking about Aweber has a free plan that does, Scott, cover up to 500 emails. It allows you to build a landing page, which you could then share with your Facebook page, wherever, right? That's not the people coming directly from Etsy. You could use that to do the giveaway, or you could use that to create that free VIP group opt-in as well. And it does give you a little bit of, I think it's one email automation, right? So realistically, what you're getting with that is the ability to email up to 500 customers. If you have 500 people opted into your list and you're not making, $20 a month off of that, chances are you're not being consistent on the email marketing side of stuff, or you're not using the niche-based approach, and you're using more of the general store approach. And when they click through your links, they're just not finding something that resonates with them, right? To make $25 a month, which would cover you up to 2,500 email subscribers, and that's on the monthly plan. It's like $20 if you do it on the annual basis. You're talking 2 sales, especially if you're using the share and save program, because you're getting that extra like couple bucks back. So 2 or 3 sales out of 500 people every month, between 500 and 2,500 people, that should be more than doable if you're following just some of the basic tenets. And remember, because everybody that's opting into this list, at least coming from the Etsy side, is a customer, they've already purchased from you, which, as we discussed when we went over some of the Etsy stats, one of the most important things for buyers on Etsy is to have other products that they can buy. They typically will start, especially the most frequent buyers, people who are buying 11 or more times per year, so basically once a month or more on Etsy. If they have a store that they like, that they've purchased from in the past, they're going to start there rather than going to Etsy search. With email marketing, we can shortcut that process. We know specifically that not only have they purchased from us, but that because they've purchased from us, they're going to have more faith in the products that we offer. They have a higher likelihood of purchasing from us in the future. And so if we're driving that type of traffic, it's going to convert at a much higher rate, which means we can then start to pay to grow that list using other methods, like what you were talking about with the giveaway or the fishbowl method, right? We can start to expand that beyond our customers and not have that overhead cost of $25 a month or more, depending on how big our list is, until it starts to produce us that profit. So if we think about starting with our existing customers, it should be very easy for us to pay for that once we grow to the size where we do have to pay for it. If we're getting 500 to 2,500 people on that list, we should be able to get at least a few sales a month out of that if we're doing a few basic things correctly. And it's basically making sure that we're in front of them, not only saying buy our stuff, buy our stuff, buy our stuff, but giving them valuable content and then giving them those exclusive discounts like you were talking about. Hey, because you're on our VIP list, we're going to give you first crack at this. They're going to go over, they're going to say, yeah, I love this t-shirt. I love that I'm going to save 20, 25, 30% on it. And then they go ahead and they buy and they convert at a higher rate, which sends all of that good juju over to Etsy to say, hey, this is a product people actually care about. You sold one, which is more than anyone in, more than most products in the Etsy catalog can say. Maybe you should put this in front of people. And then you start to get the organic love on the backside of that. So to me, the cost of this, if we think about it logically, should not be a hurdle for people because it's free. There's a giant horsefly flying around here. It's free for up to 500 people. And then once we get above that, that's when we have to start to pay for it. But if we're already at that level, we should be able to more than cover the cost of that $25 or whatever it is, with the sales that we're generating from that list and the additional sales that we generate from our new products, because we're launching them with traffic and sales, and that helps us rank higher, faster, and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, it's powerful stuff. I hope you guys are getting it. Here's what I want to do. I know we've got questions in there. We're going to answer some questions, but I always love giving strategies or tactics. And I know I mentioned like maybe we'll do a whole episode on this, but if you guys want me to break down a launch sequence email sequence, I will do that like right now. I mean, we'll do it fast, but I'll go ahead and do it. But here's what I want you guys to do for me. If you want me to do that here right now, I want you to like this. And I want you to also in the comments, I want you to write launch. Okay. LAUNCH, launch. And then what I will do, we're going to answer one question right now. That way I'll give you guys some time. I want to make sure that we got enough of you interested in this. And if you don't want me to do it, if I don't see anybody commenting on that, then I won't go through that. But I think it would be beneficial because this is the sequence that we use pretty much every single time. And it's so repeatable. And I have a whole template system that I basically just change things out and run it again. And it seems to work pretty good. So Chris, let's go ahead and answer one question. Then we'll come back to this. And if we get enough yeses and we get enough people that want me to do it, I'll go ahead and run that through. It'll take me probably around 5 to 7 minutes. And I can go ahead and give that detailed launch sequence out to everyone.
So Ms. Molly wanted to know, Scott, isn't it sales velocity that drives rank, but only from within Etsy though? Meaning it has to be an organic search within Etsy, not from social media or some other form of outside traffic. If that were true, right? If we were assuming that that was the only thing that ever had an effect on rank, only getting sales from PPC wouldn't affect our organic placement, and we know that it does. Etsy's offsite ads and the sales that they derive from that wouldn't affect our organic placement, and we know that it does, right? Things like tags wouldn't necessarily impact this. But really what we're talking about is, yes, there is an effect. The question is it weighted the same as an organic sale? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that we're sending traffic, one, from an external source, which is something Etsy has let us know that they like and something that they're encouraging even more right now with the share and save program, which is really just a revamped version of their affiliate program that doesn't require that you have a website that meets certain requirements and all of those kinds of things, right? They're telling us to send that traffic. That's another indication that really what they're looking for is those two things, traffic and sales. And we could quibble over whether a sale from email is worth exactly the same amount as somebody digging through all of, the 9 pages of organic search results, finding your thing and then buying it. But even if, let's say it counts as 10%, right, of what an organic sale would get us, the fact that we're getting those sales early before we would have a chance to get those sales starts driving those metrics on Etsy. What they're really looking at is overall traffic, overall sales, and conversion rate. And I think you're onto something there, Ms. Molly, when you're talking about sales velocity, because really what that is sales over time. And if we can get a lot of sales very quickly, that tells Etsy this is a product people want right now. So even if they count less than they would count if they came from the organic traffic, we're actually going to get a bigger push because we're getting more sales faster than anybody else would be in our category because we are driving that traffic, and that traffic converts at a higher percentage rate, typically 8 to 9% from email versus that 3 to 5% average on Etsy that we've talked about a few times over the last few weeks. So Etsy's saying, hey, when traffic comes to this listing, they buy. And not only do they buy, they're buying right now. There's a bunch of people buying right now. And when we show this to people, it converts the same or higher as the other people are all around. That's what we're talking about. It's not just about the fact that it has to be exactly the same value to the Etsy algorithm. No, but it's giving us all of those positive signals. So even if it's not, it's still well worth doing because it's getting us ahead of the curve. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Sales velocity is big. And I think that's where a lot of people, they get hung up because they get the other stuff right or even close to right? They get great title. They've done their keyword research. They've got their images optimized. They've got a good description. They've got good tags. All of that stuff's in order, but they're competing against everyone else that's doing that as well. They're like, yeah, I got it, right? Here we go. Let's just compete. And then there's got to be another thing that separates you, and that is sales. Like sales is the answer to everything in my eyes, right? You can have a mediocre listing with not as good SEO, but if it's close and you're getting a lot of sales or even just more sales than that other person, that other shop, you're going to win. I mean, this has been going back years. When Chris and I were full on as far as Amazon goes, it was always finding out your competition as far as how many sales they're generating per day and how can you match that or beat that. That was the way that you were going to outrank them. And guess what? It worked, right? If there was someone selling 20 units a day, we had to find a way to sell 25 or 30. And when we would do that, we would definitely outrank them. And there was ways that we could do that. We could run promos. We could drive people there with our email list. We could turn on external ads and push it over. Even though we might not have been profitable out of the gate, we got rank. And then once we got rank, we got visibility. Now it's up to our listing to convert those people to buyers. And that's why, yes, all that other stuff is important. Primarily, though, the images are really important, and good reviews, which is another thing we really didn't talk about with email. I mean, that's another great way for you guys to get reviews and also share reviews. So if you get a review on something, you could highlight it, drop it in an email, send it out to your list and say, man, you guys are awesome. I just got this review from Peggy, who said that she absolutely is in love with whatever, the wedding, shirts that she got for the bridal party or something like that. Right. And then I send it out to everybody. What does this do? Number one, it shows other people, wow, people are really raving about my stuff. I should go take a look at it again. And then also, it's a way for you to say, but in your PS or something, you can say, oh, and if you've ever bought something from us and you haven't left us a review, we'd really appreciate it if you would, as a small business. And then you just give the link to your reviews, and then they can go over there and leave you a review. So that's another thing you can do. And what do reviews do? They increase your sales. What does increased sales do? Helps you rank. You see how it all kind of works together? It's pretty amazing how it all works, but it's pretty simple. Chris, anything on this before we actually get into, I saw we had a bunch of people that said, yes, launch. They want that launch sequence. And I'm more than happy to kind of go through it, because I've been through it like hundreds of times, if not thousands of times now. Anything we want to touch on before I move into that?
No, I was going to say, let's go ahead and move into that. We got a bunch of people saying launch, a few people saying lunch, which is a absolutely delicious meal. And I'm also going to count as people asking for us to share the launch strategy. So let's jump into that.
Okay. If you are going to be launching a brand new product and you have access to an email list, and if you don't yet, well, after you listen to what I'm about to say, you're going to want to build that email list, because here's what we have done several times and we're going to continue to do. And it always spikes sales, which also increases reviews and also increases sales velocity, which helps us rank. So here is what we call our profit push email sequence. The very first thing that we want to do is we want to take our product that we're going to be launching. Obviously, we want a good title. We want it well optimized. We want good images because we want it to convert, and we want a good description and tags and all of that stuff. Okay. That's number one. Once we have that, there's an important piece here that we want to put into this listing. And that is, we want it to be a sale. We want to run a sale. And I like something that is pretty substantial out of the gate. Why? Because we want to get sales velocity fast. I'm not looking at profit at this point. I'm looking at sales velocity. All right. So we've done it as high as 50 and even 60% off. Now we want to know what our margins are. We don't want to be in the negative. We want to either be at a break even or even a touch below break even, because we know that what we're getting here is sales velocity. So that's the very first thing. Find your break even, launch it at break even, and then from there, we're going to start the email sequence or the promo. Now this is going to last, I like it to last between 4 and 7 days, but let's just say it's 7 days. We set up that sale internally on Etsy for 7 days. Then what we're going to do, because now that's already set in motion, we are now going to let our email list know, hey, we've got a special promo just for you, our VIPs. And then we are going to say, here's the link to go get it. And you're going to explain a little bit in that email of why you're doing it. Maybe it's the holidays are coming up. We want to get a jump start on the holidays. We want to celebrate the holidays with you, our VIPs. And here's a great special just for you. Or maybe it's Christmas in July or whatever. And we let them know. The second day, we're not going to send to the entire list. We're going to send to the people that have not opened our first email. And this is a great way to get additional people to see it. And what people don't realize is they think they send an email out and everyone saw the email. That's not true. All right. Usually a good open rate on your first email is going to be between 20 and 30%. That's what we're experiencing right now. But when you send out to the unopens, we're giving it or the availability to have other people see it that might not have been able to see it the first time. You might say, well, why didn't they see it? Maybe they were busy. Maybe they had 100 other emails that it got buried under. Okay. So that's why we do that. Then the third day is going to be a brand new email. And that email is very simple. It's, hey, it's me again. I just wanted to remind you about what I sent you on Monday. We're having this special. Why are we having the special? Here's why. Here's where you can go to get the special. Thank you so much. It's better than that, but you get the idea, right? That's all it is. It's just reminding them about what was sent out on Monday and reminding them about the sale. And then Thursday, take a guess what we're going to send on Thursday. We're going to send that unopened email again to people that were on the Wednesday email that had not opened the email yet. All right. And then we're going to move on to Friday. And Friday is, hey, it's me again. I wanted to let you know that we have 3 days left or 2 days left. 2 days left, it would be if we're doing a 7-day until this promo is expiring. And I wanted to make sure that you didn't miss out. Here you go. Here's the link. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. And then guess what Saturday's email is? We're sending to the unopens. And then from there, we're moving on to Sunday. And Sunday, this one here scares a lot of people because we're not going to send one email. We're not going to send 2 emails. We're going to send 3 emails. Yeah, I know. Pretty crazy. And then what we're going to do is on the first email, we're going to send out that there's a deadline, and that deadline expires tonight. We're going to let them know, I sent you an email earlier in the week about this promo. It's going to be ending. 40% off, 50% off is going to be expiring. If you still want to get in, go here before tonight. And that's it. That's the email. Then we're going to send another one out, probably going to be around late afternoon. Let's say 4 or 5 o'clock. The first one is going to be sent out, obviously, on that day in the morning. And then from there, we're going to send out that email just reminding them of what we sent out in the morning. And then the final one is going to be 3 hours before it expires. And we're just going to say, I know I don't send a lot of emails out on the weekend, but in this case, I'm sending one out because I wanted to make sure you didn't miss out on this because I know you're probably busy because it's the weekend. And that's it. All right. And that email sequence we have repeated over and over and over again in multiple niches, and it works every single time. So that right there, if you run that, it's a very good chance that you'll make some sales. So if you guys enjoyed that, please drop a little like, hit that like, and then leave in the comments that is something that you think that you might give a try. All right. I'd like to see that. Chris, did I explain that well? I know you've been through that sequence a number of times. It seems pretty easy.
I've done that sequence a few thousand times maybe at this point. It's the same type of a sequence, obviously with slight variations for different brands that we used when we launched the Amazon brand that we launched and sold during COVID. We use that for the brand creators and the Rock Your Brand stuff. We use that in all of the other e-commerce stuff that we've done. And I've used that personally to generate several $1 million worth of email-based revenue for a wide variety of people in different places. And Scott, I wanted to point something out. So I sent that similar sequence recently. Now this product isn't sold on Etsy because it doesn't meet the terms of service, but we had talked earlier about between an 8 and 9% conversion rate being that average conversion rate from email. And people always get worried about sending 3 emails on Sunday. And I wanted to do a little bit of math on the fly here. So I sent an email to one of the lists using that 3 emails on the last day of the promo. And I want to read you a few numbers. So 192 clicks, 45 orders. 268 clicks, 63 orders. 132 clicks, 60 orders. Right? So I don't know about you, but that sounds substantially higher than 8%. And in fact, that last one sounds like it's almost 50%, right? 60 divided by, or 132 divided by 60, right? Or 60 divided by 132, I guess. That gets us into that like 40% range, right? So don't be worried about sending more emails than you would feel comfortable getting. Everybody assumes that everybody is going to get every email. And if they got the email and they opened the email, that they took advantage of it if they were interested in it, and that they should never see it again because they had one bad experience with somebody one time sending them 2 emails in a day and they weren't interested in the thing. So they assumed that everybody is like that. That couldn't be further from the truth. All 3 of those emails were sent within 12 hours of each other to the same group of people. Right. So in 12 hours using this sequence, we were able to generate, what was that, Scott? 45, 63, and 60. So 123 plus 45. What is that? 168. Somebody correct my terrible entrepreneur math here. 168 orders in 12 hours at an average order value of $65. Right. And every time that we see that we use the sequence, we see similar results. right? That's a $20 product, which means people were buying $24 product. People were buying 2.5 or 3 of them on average. Do not be afraid to send more emails. Not everybody's going to see them. If they do see it, not everybody's going to be interested. If they see it and they're interested, maybe they're just not at the right place to make the purchase right now, but they're really interested in getting it. And before that discount goes away, we want to give them that second opportunity. And Scott, one thing I know that you'll share in common with me on this is what we will typically see. And we see it even more on like the brand creator stuff, right? Like if you want to join Niche Product Magic and we have a discount on that for whatever reason, or we're launching a new workshop and we're closing the enrollment for a new workshop, which by the way, stay tuned. We may have an announcement on something people have been asking us for here within the next few days. We do it like a midnight cutoff. So if we were going to launch a new workshop that was going to start on Saturday, we might do a midnight cutoff on Friday. And what we will see is a huge portion of people wait till like 11:54. Right. And so if we don't send that last email, we'll get a bunch of people that say, hey, I didn't even know that you closed at midnight. But if we do send that last email, we send it at 11 o'clock, they'll click on that link and then they'll sit there thinking about it. And then at 11:54, we get 30 people that jump in. And we see the same thing in e-commerce. We see the same thing everywhere. So don't be afraid to send more than one email. And the reason that we get a little bit more aggressive on that last day is, one, a lot of times that will fall on a weekend. So people are a little bit more distracted. 2, not everybody gets every email. And 3, if we don't give them that last reminder, we can lose a huge portion of those sales. In the case of the example that I was just sharing, Scott, we would have lost 45 of those orders, right? So we would have lost $2,800 in revenue if we didn't send that third email. And if you don't, you're never going to get it. If you do, you might get 1 or 2 people that say, hey, can you chill a little bit on the emails? You tend not to get really aggressive people, especially in the Etsy ecosystem. And the way that we typically address that, and it's something we may want to talk about here really fast, you can find this outlay, I believe, Scott, in the email marketing playbook as well. We do kind of walk you through that in a little bit more of a visual format, if I remember correctly. But what we typically say in the last email is, hey, I know I'm emailing more than I normally do, right? Like, hold your cards and letters for a minute, right? Like, I know I'm emailing more than I normally do, but I don't want you to miss out on that. And that takes care of 99.9% of people who are like, man, you sent me 3 emails because I happen to be the one person on your list that opened and clicked on every single email that you sent, right? So we just lead that last email off that way, say, hey, it's expiring in an hour, it's expiring in 2 hours. I know I'm emailing more than I normally do. I promise this is the last one for now. I just want to make sure that you didn't miss out. That'll solve that weird feeling that some people get when they're not used to doing email marketing about sending that third email on the last day of the promo.
Yeah, that's a scary thing for a lot of people. And it was for me too. And even to this day, I don't love that I'm sending that many, but I understand that that's what people need. Because I've had people that say, I wish you would have emailed me one more time. I meant to do it. I didn't do it. And then I missed out. And then, you might say, well, why don't you just give them the thing? A lot of times the sales expired. The only way that I'd be able to do is I'd have to send them a private code, and it's more work on our end to do that. And it doesn't give the sense to the rest of the audience that it is a true sale. Like, I don't want to be those ones that's like, oh, just tell me to, I'll take it off for you. You want it to be real, just like you would. How would you feel if you went in a week later and said, hey, I missed that email you sent out and I wanted to get my 25% off? They're like, I'm sorry, the sale's over with. I did that with Culture Pop in Earth Fair. I was getting it for like buy one, get one free. And it was the longest time I went in there and it was over with. I can't go up to them and go, hey, could you give me the buy one, get one free? I missed it by a day. They're like, sorry, the sale's off. Sorry, buddy. I'm like, okay. You just can't do it. Okay. There was a question that came in, or a concern, like, well, my audience isn't online Saturday and Sunday. Make the sale 4 days, and send it Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, right? There's no hard set rule. We've done it where we do it for just 3 days, right? That's it. It's a shorter promo, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done it where we've had a sale for 24 hours. There's no hard and fast rule here, but the thing that you need to understand is you need a start, a middle, and an end. Okay. And there needs to be a reason why you're doing it. Now, I will say, if you're just going to do like 5% off, probably not going to work as well. It needs to be something that people go like, wow, this is a good deal. I better get in on this. All right. So Chris put up the link. Download the email playbook at brandcreators.com/email. It's totally free. And you might be saying, well, Scott, why is it free? because we want you to come on our email list so we can share more information like this and build a relationship with you. So eventually you might buy one of our products. Okay. Spoiler alert. Like we are, following our own advice here. But we are giving away tons of value, just like this live, just like this podcast. We're showing up doing this because we know that the deeper relationship that we have with you and the more help that we can give you, you may become one of our students one of these days. Maybe you don't have to, but you might. So it's just a way for us to communicate with you through email. All right. So definitely do that. Chris, is there any other questions that we wanted to dive into before we wrap up this podcast?
Jay Anderson over on YouTube said, I set up my Aweber account after watching one of your videos. However, no one is subscribing. Can you walk us through the best way to get people to confirm the subscription? So the best way to do that is to not use, for lack of a better term, no offense, Aweber, the hot garbage that they have as an automated confirmation message, right? It basically says something super generic like, hey, would you like to hear from Chris today? Click the giant blue button, right? Like people are gonna be like, who's Chris? Why is he emailing me? What is this link? It looks terrible. It looks like spam. And it's just because that's their generic template. They do actually expect you to go in and customize it, and you should. And Scott, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the best way to get people to click that button and to opt into the list is to give them a reason to do it. Do you want to join our VIP club and get future discounts on products? Do you want to learn more about kayak bass fishing? Do you want, right? What is the reason that we're trying to get them to join the list? One of the things that we found with the Etsy audience that works extremely well is using that VIP club. We get a pretty good opt-in rate with that. I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head. I'd have to jump in and look, but we get a pretty solid opt-in rate with that. And we'll go in and tweak that from time to time, but that would be where I would start. The other question that I would have is, how many people are we talking about, right? Because the more sales we get, the more chance we have to see what that actual opt-in rate is versus, sales versus people on the email list. That's how we would figure that out. I know we had somebody earlier say that they were getting about a 25% opt-in rate, which is awesome.
Yeah, Chris,
Scott,
before you jump in, I did want to bring something up because I know a lot of people want to know, like, okay, how do I set everything up? We do go into the playbook. Okay. That's a lot of that is like our giveaway method, as we call it. But if you did want to go through, and this is a paid program, by the way. So if you are interested in going through and setting up the email, we have all of the lessons to do that inside of the 7-day Cha-Ching challenge. In one of those days, we go into building the email list using the Aweber integration. We give you the welcome email, the written version of that, the template that you can use, all of that stuff, and so much more, because inside of this training, we're going after getting sales and optimizing, getting sales, running promos, all of those things in a 7-day window. So if you're interested in that, the 7-day Cha-Ching challenge, it is available. It's on demand. So you can go in there, access it at any time, and you can get access to that by going over to brandcreators.com/sales. And you can go ahead and get access. That is a paid program. It's not that expensive, still very affordable. And if you follow that, there's a good chance that you'll increase those sales. And it's probably a good time to do it right now as we're approaching Q4. So again, the 7-day Cha-Ching challenge, I highly recommend it. Not just because we created it, because it's a kick butt of a program. So go ahead and get that. All right. So Chris, you were going to ask another question. What was the other question?
Yeah. Somebody said, great name for a challenge. LOL. I love it. That's why we named it that way. It's all about getting you that Cha-Ching sound, just that cash register sound, as often as possible from your Etsy store. So somebody had asked us over on Facebook, Scott, they said, how often do you offer a giveaway to build your list? And the answer is it depends, right? We should be starting off with just that customer list until we can pay for the upgraded plan with those sales. Once we have that in place, I would typically suggest doing it at least a few times a year to really build out that. You can be as aggressive as once a month, but we typically will run that 2 or 3 times a year just to kind of rebuild that list. And if you have an email list already, you're paying for that already with the sales you're generating from that list, I would definitely do one before we really get into Q4 here. I mean, as of recording this, we are in the middle of September, right? So even if you were to run a full 30-day giveaway, which is typically what we suggest, and again, you're going to find a lot of the details on that inside of the email marketing playbook over at brandcreators.com/email. But we typically suggest doing that. You'd be done with that by the middle of October. You might miss out on that window to really sell the Halloween stuff, but you're going to have people on that list and active and primed and ready to buy before you get into the fall and Christmas season, which is really where you want them anyway, because as we go throughout Q4 here, we're going to start to see those conversion rates start to ramp up. And Scott, I think we walked through that in one of the workshops we did, or one of the Q&A sessions we did with the people who were going through the Q4 training camp, where we showed the difference in the different months and our conversion rate last year, and how it was kind of tracking very similar to that this year, where August and September, it's lower, October it goes higher, November it kind of goes bonkers, and then the first part of December, it just goes absolutely crazy, and people will buy pretty much anything that you put in front of them at that point, because they're just trying to find a gift at the very last minute, right? So if you're going to do a giveaway, I would suggest doing one now. But if you're just getting started, focus on monetizing the customer base first. And then once you have a little bit of cash flow to play with and start to create a giveaway that you can actually promote through something like Facebook ads to really start to build out that list, that's when I would do that, after you have kind of mastered some of the basics with the people who are most likely to buy from you because they're pre-existing customers.
Cool. Any other quick ones, Chris?
How do you see if a competitor is running ads? You would have to just look at the keyword search term. Even something like Everbee isn't going to know everything that they're doing that. And somebody just said, do you know the link you put on the screen during live is not clickable? Yes, you can't click on it because that will pause the video if we are live, but you can just type that into your browser. That's why we try to make them as easy as something like brandcreators.com/email. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't give us the ability to make that clickable. Even if I drop it in the comments, a lot of times it won't be clickable. But if you just copy and paste that, or I can just write it out in the comments, you should be able to copy and paste that into your browser. It'll take you right there and you should be good to go.
We can put that in the description too. Once the live ends, we'll go ahead and put all of the links that we talked about in the description. So if you are watching this later and you wanted to go through and not actually type something in, you can go ahead and find those links in the description down below. That's usually what we do once these are over. So Chris, I think that's it. I think we covered just about everything that I wanted to, and I really just wanted people to understand that there's so much potential here for you, because there's so many people not doing it or not aware of it. And what I want to do is make a small portion of people that are watching this, because obviously there's thousands, if not millions of sellers out there. They're not all watching this. I wish they were, but they're not. But you are. So that's an advantage for you. And I don't hear anyone else talking about email. And the reason why is because I think a lot of people are just focusing on Etsy, and that's it. And that's fine, but there's so much more that we can do. And now Etsy is clearly showing us that they want to drive, or us to drive traffic, and they want to reward us. And they've rewarded us in the past by giving us higher rankings, but they're rewarding us now by actually paying us more too. So there's that, which is pretty exciting. So that's everything that I wanted to share with you guys here. Hopefully you guys got a ton of value. Do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the podcast, because we've got a lot more coming. We've got some experiments we're running behind the scenes. We've got one that we've been trying to spend $1,000 a day on Etsy ads. We're going to talk about that. And we've had just an incredible start to Q4 already. We are already up. I think the number was, I sent it over to Chris this morning. We're up over 254%, I think, on revenue, which is absolutely bonkers this early. So I'm excited for Q4 because we're not technically really in it, but we are. We feel like we are, but we know the buyers aren't yet. But man, this is a heck of a start that we're having right now. And we're following everything that we're sharing here on this podcast, on YouTube, everywhere that we're sharing this content. We are doing this stuff. And we hope that you guys will take just a little bit of it and implement it, because I do believe that'll make a difference. So guys, if you want the playbook, head on over to brandcreators.com/email. If you want to sign up for the 7-day Cha-Ching challenge and get to it, go ahead to brandcreators.com/sales, and you can sign up immediately and get access. And you can go ahead and start going through that like right now, and that'll set you up for Q4. and really start to get those sales cha-chinging, as it says. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day. We'll see you right back here in the next episode. Take care, guys.